Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the NF Show, the weekly video podcast for NF Magazine. This episode's called A New Nintendo, and that's for good reason. We have so much to talk about, especially Nintendo's move to start making games for mobile devices like smartphones and tablets. But before I go any further, I bet you're wondering who exactly I am. I'm Evan Campbell, your host for this week, and with me, as always, is the ever lovely Noah Ward.
Hello, everybody. I have been looking forward to this episode since last week, since all of this happened hours after we recorded last week's episode. So it's been a long wait for me.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, especially the Nintendo gaming community, talk about megaton announcements, and especially
Yes.
love them when Iwata drops the bombs like a Nintendo Directs or anything. But I don't think anything compares to this just out of the blue press conference that basically signals a huge shift in Nintendo game development going forward.
Yeah, and there are so many unknowns. There's so many questions about what could be truly next, both on the hardware and the software front. And I am looking forward to sharing my conspiracy theories and hearing what everybody else's is, and also definitely hearing what Evan's are. We did talk about it a little bit over Messenger last week and started thinking about things, and I've been reading some stories since. And so I'm all excited to conspiracy theorize this episode.
Yeah, I noticed you have all of your amiibos like face forward so they can pay attention to this episode. Like no horseplay around going around this time.
That's right. All eyes are on the show. They're in their standard military formation back there.
Yes, we have a lot to talk about. Noah even brought it up. There's a new Nintendo console, or I guess it's platform technically, that was announced by Iwata as well. But we have some news tidbits to get to first. And these are big things to talk about as well. The first one is sort of a bummer, so let's get this bad news out of the way first. It has now been confirmed that Splatoon will not feature voice chat.
Which I predicted. I think back in our predictions episode, I should go back and look at the notes. But I was expecting it, not necessarily with any Schadenfreude about it, because I really wanted voice chat, and I think Evan, you said that it has to have it in order to launch, and here we are without voice chat. And I've been reading previews, and a lot of the pre-release game coverage that a lot of the major websites out there have had a chance to play a bunch more of the game. They're all very positive and optimistic about the new franchise that this could be, but all of them also mention, and there's no voice chat, and some of them address it as there's no voice chat, but it's okay because the game's really good, and some of them address it as there's no voice chat, and it will be interesting to see how that impacts a game that is based around cooperative versus competitive multiplayer.
Yeah, it's a very team-based shooter, and I feel like any longtime listeners or viewers of the NF show know my stance on this. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I'm not going to go much further than that. But this isn't a game where it's about kill-death ratios. One of the hooks is the team-based playing and kind of covering the area, and they announced a new objective mode and everything. But this is a 4 versus 4 team-based multiplayer third-person shooter, and the fact that I'm going to have to communicate with people through, I'm guessing, pre-made text, maybe linked to the D-pad, is just what a terrible. Like, there's no excuse for this other than Nintendo's, we don't want strangers talking to each other. So I'm curious about that. But something I didn't see addressed that kind of links into this, Noah, is can I at the very least link up with my friends, like 3 other friends, and we go into a public match together as a team? Or is it going to be the same as Mario Kart 8, where it's basically one person joins a public match, and then everyone else just keeps trying to join that person's game? And this really crappy non-lobby system. And the voice chat's already one strike. That lobby type system where it's hard for me to link up with friends unless we do a private match, that could be not only another strike, but strikes 2 and 3 for me, and I might just pick it up to play single player and may not even give multiplayer a shot at the because that's just a basic fundamental in this day and age. And that really, if I'm going to play with friends, I'm going to need that sort of functionality.
And something that could be fun if you are interested in hearing both sides of the story, or if you're a longtime Nintendo fan, is how much the apologists have come out in waves to defend this decision and the subsequent comments that are below these latest previews about the game, talking about how fun it is to play, but also mentioning that there's no voice chat. And there are people saying, how could you miss this? And then there are other people saying, it's not that important. All it is going to be little kids saying swear words all the time. And then somebody else was saying in a great, over and over, great example that Nintendo designs games where you don't need verbal communication to succeed as a team. The gameplay is just so intuitive and works so well. And it was just some of the most loosey-goosey, silly logic that I had read in a while. But only on Nintendo is where that happens. But it still made me a little bummed because I know that I can actually experience voice chat and play Splatoon with Evan if I have a laptop or cell phone next to me
Yeah.
connected with Skype or something else. I could make it happen, and we definitely did that back on Wii with Mario Kart and with Smash Brothers. But it's just cumbersome and it's very short-sighted, and it's frustrating. And I understand that in Call of Duty, especially, and some other online centric gaming franchises out there, the communities are horrible, and some of the things that are said are completely inappropriate, or they're foul, or they're obnoxious, they're not funny, and it takes away from the game. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I could also mute those people, and I could just have my friends who I know and I love to game with talking with me, especially those like Evan who don't live in town with me. So I don't know if you get it, Evan, if you get it, and if I get it, and I do really want to get it because it just looks so good. It looks so much
Yeah.
fun. I would probably go the Skype route or something like that to be able to play it with you and talk about it in real time. But it is definitely a major blemish on what otherwise looks like a fantastic game.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I still think Splatoon looks fantastic, but that's why I brought up kind of the lobby system because if we can't join up before we enter a game, Noah, it can just become a long headache of, oh, this match is already filled, oh, this match is already
Yeah,
filled, and we can just talk about how we're not playing together, and that will be a
which
bummer.
we've done too.
So it'll be interesting to see how things come together. Splatoon, like you said, is getting positive pre-release buzz. People are really liking it. It does have a single-player campaign and everything. We're both still excited for the game. We're just super bummed by this news. And once again, just want to reinforce everyone, it's 2015. Voice chat for an online game should be there at the very basic level, enabled across your friends on your Wii U list. If you want to take it away from strangers, that's fine, but this should just be there. There are no excuses. And yeah, I can't listen to the apologist or anything. There's just no reason at this point.
Something else that kind of makes me nervous is the predictive and hypothetical musings in some of these gameplay previews, in that there's this hope that this becomes a franchise and that it launches and it has many sequels. Maybe in the sequels we'll see voice chat or something like that. But regardless, I wonder by what metrics, by what criteria Nintendo determines that this game is successful, because it's not a Mario Kart, it's not a Smash Brothers, it's not even a mainline Mario or Zelda game. So how much does it have to sell on a system that has such a small install base to begin with, and uh, and may not have a lot of people that are even into this particular game for Splatoon to get another chance on another platform, assuming that Splatoon's next sequel doesn't come out on Wii U, if a sequel is even to come. And I hope that the bar is low, just because this is a really fantastic game, and I don't want it to be like the wait in between Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3, for instance, where we're waiting across systems and we're waiting a decade. Like, whatever happened to Splatoon? That was a game that had so much potential. I would love to see another one, and I don't want that to happen. I want this to really get some solid support, but I'm nervous about it with the Wii U's install base, and I'm a little bit worried that if it doesn't take off from a multiplayer front, and Evan, you wait to get it when it's cheaper, if you try to get into the game, and we can't get in any matches because there aren't enough people playing anymore
Yeah,
after a
I
few months.
I would say if I'm Nintendo, I obviously you want good sales, but I think the other sign that you should be paying attention to is just player retention on the multiplayer side and seeing if you get that dedicated fan base. And also see with an online based shooter what kind of support and how Nintendo is going to evolve the series. And I think that these types of questions are something that we'll address later in the show with this kind of combination of DNA and Nintendo and how they're teaming up for some online services and everything and those daily operations, which will be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another Nintendo team up that has been rumored is them joining forces with Netflix for a Legend of Zelda series. And Iwata has come out and spoken about that rumored series and saying that the report is inaccurate. But he doesn't outright deny that it's not happening. I thought this quote was very interesting. Iwata said, "As of now, I have nothing new to share with you in regard to the use of our IPs or any TV shows or films, but I can at least confirm that the article in question is not based on correct information." And this is Iwata in a recent Time magazine interview.
And something else that's not mentioned here is what about that leaked Sony document that claimed that Sony was working on a Mario movie? I wonder if he would have had the same response. But this is classic Iwata doublespeak. Uh, it can just be left as is, and it can be interpreted either way. Or if it turns out that there is a series in the future, can you say, "Well, I never said there wasn't a series"? I do hope that it's just too early in negotiations. When we first heard this rumor, the story said it was very, very early, and
Yeah.
Nintendo loves to show stuff off when it's a little bit more polished, it's a little bit more finalized. So this seems to indicate to me that it still is quite definitely a possibility, if not a different series, maybe a different property, or maybe it's a different studio working on it, but I definitely feel something is coming on the TV and movie front, probably. Maybe not Zelda in both cases. And we're going to hear about it maybe at E3 or maybe later in the fall when it's closer to a realistic promotional window for the television series.
Yeah, and I'll just add the quote saying it's not based on correct information. He could just maybe that's just in regard to this being a family-friendly version of Game of Thrones. Or maybe it's just like on when it's coming. Like that can be taken in so many ways. So I am guessing that Nintendo and Netflix are possibly in talks, but like you said, first you need writers, producers, you need the cast to be set.
The
We're a
budget.
long yeah, we're a long way out from a Legend of Zelda on Netflix series, but I think that Iwata is basically telegraphing like expect some Nintendo TV shows or movies in the upcoming future, and you're actually already seeing them kind of utilize their IP in movies. I know that the trailer for Pixels, which is a Sony film, has Donkey Kong as one of the iconic video game characters that comes to life with Pac-Man, and we've seen Bowser recently and the was it the DreamWorks or is it actually it was Pixar, wasn't it? Wreck-It Ralph.
That was Disney.
Yeah, Pixar, Disney.
Yeah,
I
it
guess it
was
wasn't Pixar, it
it
was
was
Disney.
Disney's computer animation
Yeah,
studios, not Pixar. Yeah.
yeah. So we're seeing Nintendo get a little looser, and I'm guessing that we will see whether it's that Super Mario Brother animated movie, we'll see something from Nintendo in the next 3 to 5 years, and it'll be a whole new world. I think they've finally gotten over being burned in the 90s with the Super Mario Brothers film then.
We're at least one generation removed from all of all of that media and those properties or those interpretations of the properties. So I think Nintendo's like, all right, we're a generation that kids today have no idea that that happened. Let's start fresh.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've seen that Marvel money. Everyone looks at what Marvel's done
Oh
with their
yeah.
properties and is just like, yes, we should try to do more of this. So I'm all for it. I definitely want to see a Legend of Zelda TV show or series or whatever. I remember watching the cartoons back in the late
Mm-hmm.
80s, early 90s. Excuse me, princess. it can't get any worse than that, can it? I mean, like
I
the bar
liked it.
sits so low.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah, that's true. The overall quality, it's certainly not something for the ages. It's not like Bugs Bunny or Looney Tunes or anything that we will be coming back to 50 years from now, like, oh, that was a classic. This is something that should be a reference point for all future cartoons. It wasn't that, but maybe this new stuff will be.
Oh yeah. I've got high hopes right out of the gate. Can't wait to see it. I really can't wait to see it. Well, before we get into our main discussion topic, no, you have a little update. Sounds like you picked up a new game.
Yeah, so I had a quick vacation trip last weekend, and I got my Best Buy Gamers Club Unlocked membership taken care of. And so, per all of the recommendations and everything, I did go out and get Majora's Mask 3D. And I was a little bit hesitant about it, and because it's like, oh, I don't have the new 3DS, but maybe it will be just as good. It's not like all the reviews said. It's great, but it's really only good if you get on the new system. But then, as it turns out, Best Buy I finally got to get some hands-on time with the new 3DS XL. It actually was
Oh,
out there.
okay.
It was the first time I got to see it. So inadvertently and unexpectedly, this also happened, which is my new 3DS
I
XL.
knew it. I knew it would just happen out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And
I
you
one
got
of the things that really impressed me, well, just to sum up in a couple words why I ended up making this impulsive purchase, aside from the fact that I knew I was going to be on a plane for hours, and that's perfect, ideal gaming time.
yeah.
But I was just dazzled by the system, for lack of a better word. And I think the Super Stable 3D was just that really sold me on it. And the screens just looked so bright and crystal clear because you also have the automatic brightness adjustment going on. And for some reason, I have in my mind when I haven't played the 3DS recently, and all I've been playing is games with lackluster graphics like Pokemon Shuffle, that the 3DS is only capable of cranking out DS level graphics. There's just some kind of grungy, dim, chunky idea of graphics that are in my mind. And I was watching this gameplay video in 3D of Majora's Mask, and I thought, wow, this looks amazing. It's like GameCube or Wii quality, if not better. It's just like, I don't remember 3DS games looking this great. And of course, they have looked that great. But with the 3D being so well implemented, and there's no shimmer, there's no darkness or anything going on, and also with that I had actually put screen protectors on both the glass and the touch screen of my previous 3DS. That already makes the screens look a little dingy. So a virgin, untarnished set of displays, and then with that awesome horsepower, the horsepower boost, and that stable 3D, it just dazzled me.
You had to
And then
have
that
it.
the finish, when you described it, Evan, I hadn't closely researched it. I just had remembered in all the marketing that there was a black system and there's a red system, and all the marketing for the red system made it look like it was business casual red, is what I like to call it. It's red for grown-ups or adults or for your Toyota Camry or whatever. And but actually, the finish I had thought was going to be for the outside, just like the 3DS, some kind of shiny metallic, maybe with a fleck. But it actually has this cool underlying texture that's kind of like a pattern, the canvas of jeans. It's these diagonal lines that are in,
Yeah.
that catch the light, and it's really cool. And that the red is actually bright stop sign red. It's just as bright of a red as the original 3DS was, which is that I also got that one in that color. And I thought, wow, it actually is a business casual red. But then I got it home, and womp womp on the inside. Yes, it is that dark,
Yeah.
yucky red, but it's got kind of a cool metallic fleck to it. And that said, at the end of the day, the more that I looked at it, and I just remembered my old 3DS, my 3DS XL, which I totally like decaled up and made it look really sweet, which I'm showing you guys, if you're watching the video, what it looks like
That is really
in this
cool.
podcast. I'm going to do that with this 3DS XL as well. I've already got my skin purchased, and yeah, and I had questions. I wondered, does the thumbstick work with old games? And I put in Resident Evil Revelations. It totally does. It says, do you want to use the Circle Pad Pro, out of all things? And I said, yes. And it's like, all right, setting the control scheme. to Control Scheme D, which is one of the Circle Pad Pro Plus, whatever it's called, um, setups. And so I was able to use the thumbstick in games that came out 4 or 5 years ago. So Resident Evil Revelations, Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D. If you have those games, if you haven't gotten them, go ahead and like get some new life breathed into them and be able to use a little analog stick instead of this huge chunky add-on. It's really neat. I kind of wish the analog stick or nub or C stick was below the buttons. I don't know why Nintendo likes to keep being contrary for contrary's sake. It's really weird to me as the gamers put so many hundreds of hours into other systems where that stick is below. But it's like, oh, Wii U has it. Now we're going to do it with the 3DS. So that's one tweak that I would change. But otherwise, I'm really happy with it. Majora's Mask, I put 3 or 4 hours, no, a couple hours into it. I didn't remember quite how dark and depressing and somber it was.
It's very unsettling.
Yeah, yeah, it totally is. And when I first came into Termina, it's been so long since I've been in Clocktown. I thought, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming. There's too much. I can't remember. I have to go find the little bomber kids all over the town and all the nooks and crannies. And I picked it up. It was okay, but control 3D camera controls still have come so far from how they were done back in the Ocarina of Time and Mario 64 days, and you can feel it when you play
Oh,
Majora's Mask. That's one thing that really sticks out to me. Does it stick out to you, Evan?
well, I mean, there was no second, there wasn't any camera control basically. There was the Z targeting. That's like an added feature to this 3DS release. So you were talking about like getting it on the regular console, and that I've used the C stick a lot playing Majora's Mask, not, and I'm sure you can get by just using the Z targeting, but I'm just like, man, I am glad I have the new 3DS XL for this game.
It totally helps. I'm still kind of flipping back and forth between how I used to play it, which was run, click the left shoulder button, run, maybe move the stick around, run, left shoulder button. I just kind of fall back in those old habits. But when I played Resident Evil Revelations, it was just really smooth to steer around Jill Valentine using the C stick or pull
Hmm.
up her sniper rifle gun sight and steer with the stick and be very precise. It was really, really nice. And the extra shoulder buttons even come into play on Revelations. It works really, really well. And I'm very happy with it. And my hesitation before is it's expensive, but I still have so many 3DS games yet to play and ones to go back to and finish. I put some more time into the Phoenix Wright game that came out, Dual Destinies, on
Hmm.
eShop a couple years ago. I did that on the airplane too, and it all looks so bright, and the 3D is so good. It really, even coming from a 3DS XL, which I love that system as well, it is a substantial and worthwhile improvement. And seeing a story that Miyamoto of all people had that feature added in the last second and that almost didn't launch with that is just mind-boggling because it is definitely the best selling point of that system.
Yeah, that was pretty intriguing to hear, and I'm glad you're liking it. I have enjoyed my system more than I thought I would. Even the small things, like you said, the processing power, it just feels so much snappier than
And
the
it's
3DS.
lighter too. I don't know if
Yeah.
you notice if you've picked up the old 3DS XL and the new 3DS XL, it's like you can actually detect a weight difference. It's kind of like going from one iPad model to another iPad model. There is a weight difference that you notice. It's still subtle, but it was kind of nice. It's like, wow, everything about this. The design is so much better. It's no longer that squished pancake look. It's more like the older DS Lite in style. The finish is nice. The color is cool. So yeah, I'm quite happy with it.
That's really good to hear. And you didn't break your back cover.
That was a total pain in the butt. And even though I had to go find the video because even though I'd watched the video a couple times and read the articles, I couldn't remember exactly how to do it. And in spite of being as careful as possible and not breaking my back cover, I have little dings or nicks in these little catches where you're supposed to pry the back loose using the stylus of all things. So it's already damaged a little bit from that stupid process, and I hope that the next system that Nintendo makes that requires this type of operation is more built for the task. And no, Nintendo of America, I don't want to buy some corny extra backplate on account of your bad hardware design.
Yeah, that the back cover thing is nerve-wracking. I That was crazy. I just bought or I bought a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if I talked about it here, but the new 3DS XL charging stand or whatever, and it came in the mail. It's like $9 Nintendo.
You're you're breaking up, Evan, unfortunately, so we're going to have to back up to your previous statement. So you said you got the new 3DS XL charging stand and it was $9.
Yeah, it's $9 on Nintendo of America's website.
And were you happy with your purchase? Does it add an
Yeah.
extra je ne sais quoi?
Yes, yes. I have it set up on my desk now. It's perfect. Instead of just like looking weird with the wire and the flat, like just add some elegance, and it makes my OCD mind feel better seeing it there on my desk like that.
Very nice, very nice.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that you're enjoying your new Nintendo 3DS XL. I'm glad that you're enjoying Majora's Mask 3D. I can't wait to hear further impressions from you. But with that, we're going to get into our main topic, the new Nintendo, as Iwata announced that they are finally going to make smartphone and tablet games. And this is happening with a Japanese mobile gaming company called DNA. They will be working with them. And basically, what has come out of this is Nintendo will actually be making the majority of these smartphone games, but DNA will be handling the services behind them, such as like new content. I'm guessing how, because with smartphone games, there's something new to them every day, and Iwata kind of talks about that. And then on top of that, Nintendo and DNA will be partnering on the new Club Nintendo or whatever it's called, and it will be a service that you can access not only through your smartphone and tablets and PCs, but also through the Wii U, 3DS, and Nintendo's next platform, codenamed NX. But this just brings up a ton of questions, speculations, and no, I know you said you had some conspiracy theories about all of this. So I'm curious, when this news dropped, what you thought and what was running through your head.
Well, I was something that we talked about, Evan, off of the outside of this show, but we were frantically messaging each other back and forth. My first concern was that Nintendo has a hard enough time developing enough titles for 3DS and Wii U to add in a whole other branch of development that's
Yeah,
for platforms that are not standardized and not developed by Nintendo, and trying to figure out how to harness the horsepower of dozens of different screen resolutions, dozens of different power configurations. I feel like Nintendo is going to be taking itself as already being spread thin, trying to provide the bulk of awesome game support, game library support on its machines, and getting even thinner by supporting both of those systems for who knows how much longer, but also mobile platforming, a mobile platform set of games.
yeah, I was pretty shocked by that news when we talked about it that Nintendo will actually be handling smartphone development. I kind of thought with this, what I believe Nintendo and DNA called a strategic business alliance, I was initially under the impression like, okay, Nintendo might oversee DNA, but since they have such a history making these games, kind of give them the guidance and then have them make the games. And when Iwata was like, well, we're good at making games, we're kind of handle the majority of that. I had the same thoughts, and like we said, Nintendo Iwata made sure to say, guess what though? We're not out of the dedicated game system. We're making the NX system. And I saw, I forget who it was. I think it may have been Pierre Schneider at IGN. He made a great comment on that. It was basically, you don't announce the news of a new console, and you have people speculate that Nintendo is getting out of the hardware business, but at the same time, you're not undercutting any fans of the Wii U or possibly the 3DS. Or what he ended up doing, you announce it to make sure there aren't rumors of Nintendo's going fully mobile. So they announced the codename Steam, but they didn't say whether it was the next home console or handheld. They just called it the next Nintendo platform. So my guess, Noah, and my kind of theory about all of this, and this has been my theory going on for a long time, people get, I think, caught up on the term hybrid system. Basically, I think whether there is two devices or possibly three or more, they whatever they are, they will run the same games, will run the same OS, will share online connectivity and everything else. So Nintendo is going to kind of streamline its resources with its system development, and then they will have the extra dev resources there for smartphones. And that's how they won't actually be spread out. Right now, they may be spread out across three systems, but in the future, it will come back to two.
I kind of feel similarly, but I have a slightly different take on it. And listeners or viewers out there, if you're not quite sure what Evan was just alluding to, one of his previous hypotheses from the last year or years past
It's
is
a
that
couple of years
Nintendo
now.
releases something akin to, well, actually, it's not too different. Well, let's
iPad,
say like an
iPhone.
iPad. Yeah, so there's an iPad and then there's an iMac, let's say. So things that sound similar. iPad and iPhone's probably better because they both use the same operating system. So they're two
Shared, yeah.
rather different devices. Evan's idea is there could be a home console system and there could be a handheld system, and they both pretty much are exactly the same power and they run the same games. And it's up to you if you want the handheld version or if you want the home version or if you want both. And you bounce between them. Is that a correct statement, Evan?
Oh yeah. And there might even be a or a hybrid device, a tablet that does it all, and a docking.
Which would
Like
awesome.
you could go all out.
Yeah, I would. I think someone wrote this. I can't remember which article I read that said this, but their statement was Nintendo's next system should be this, and then showed a picture of the gamepad, and then underneath it said this is the entire system. It is the gamepad. So you have
Yeah.
this gamepad, and it's basically a console and a controller and a screen and all that stuff in one. And it can stream to your TV. It can dual broadcast to your TV and its own screen. And I really like that idea. But to get back to my original twist on Evan's idea, is I think that Nintendo develops one new machine that doesn't have multiple models, and its new mobile system is mobile phones. Its handheld development teams focus on creating games for mobile phones, and the next system, whether it's a hybrid of some sort, it's a console you can take with you on the go. It's a single system, and that's what the console teams focus on. And the existing 3DS mobile teams, they're focused on making games for mobile phones. And so Nintendo maintains a roughly two platform strategy, handheld games and console games. It's just that the console stuff is strictly theirs, whereas the handheld stuff is all those smartphones and tablets.
Yeah. I feel like we're pretty much on similar territory there. I just think whatever this Nintendo platform is, it's handheld in some way just because the Japanese market, they like handhelds more than consoles. And Nintendo still focuses a lot on Japan because it's based there, even though the rest of the world basically likes their home consoles mainly more than their handhelds. But it opens up a lot of possibilities. Uh, My whole thought on this, no, was finally, I'm not someone who's a big smartphone game player, honestly. I dabble in titles, but I was ready for Nintendo to do this. Not from, I mean, they need it financially. They need another income stream. They, even with what people call the success of the 3DS, we've talked about it, it has continually sold lower than expectations. The Wii U has been a huge disappointment. Whether and that's not hyperbole. It has sold a tenth of what the Wii sold, and we're into year three of the system's life cycle at this point. And I think that Nintendo can do a lot of cool things with smartphones, and I'm excited about that. But the idea that DNA is going to help them with the services side, my fingers are crossed. Since the Club Nintendo service is going to work with the Wii U and 3DS, that this extends into more of the online infrastructure. Maybe DNA will be the one to get them voice chat throughout games or console chat or whatever. Maybe this will get them where we have an eShop on smartphones where I can buy games from that easily and it starts downloading right away, or I can access all of this content in an easy to understand way across devices. I'm a year ago we were at a point where I think we had what, like a Nintendo Network ID, a Club Nintendo account, and um, I feel like there's like another account. Like I'm just ready for this all to be streamlined. I'm ready for this all to work together, and I'm really hoping that DNA can bring that together. So that got me really excited.
Yeah, something I'm not clear on is how much is this system a membership system in that it truly unites all of the devices and provides a consistent online OS or an online store or whatever, and how much of it is a marketing slash loyalty program. I really want it to be much more the former versus the latter, and maybe the idea is that it's all rolled together, but just that Club Nintendo was ended in advance of this announcement specifically makes me hope that it's not more of a loyalty program that's accessible on all your devices and is still some kind of island experience outside of the existing eShop and your Nintendo Network ID and everything else. I'm concerned, I'm worried, I don't want it to be this standalone thing that exists alongside all of what we currently have today, and the next system that truly harnesses it in a way that you're talking about, Evan, is the NX.
Well, yeah, this needs to tie into Nintendo Network ID. It needs to be the same sign in, but I think it's going to be a mix. Honestly, I think Wada talked about this in the past year or so. I think at an investors question and answer session where he basically said we need to look at different payment models, but not only from that, but if you're someone that buys a lot of Nintendo games, we should be offering you discounts the more games you buy throughout the year to get you to try new games. Or maybe we can target you as someone that we think would like maybe like a strategy game like Fire Emblem. So we give you half off. I think with DNA, I'm sure that they have better ways of kind of drawing data out of how people experience things compared to Club Nintendo, which was very much focused in 10, 20, 30 years behind the times where you're filling out multiple questionnaires. I would think this service can just be like, oh, this person plays this many games per week, this many hours, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't need to ask you those questions because
Yeah, it's on the
it's
system.
got that data from you playing online and everything, and it's drawing from that, which can obviously be scary for people that are have privacy concerns and everything. But and this also might signify, Noah, could we eventually see a paid yearly membership, the equivalent of Xbox Live Gold and the PlayStation Plus with this DNA service? I mean, we could
Yeah,
finally
possibly.
see what we've wanted where you get a certain amount of virtual console games or whatever. I think there's so many possibilities with not only smartphone games maybe being free or you getting credit. Like Nintendo can do so much because they have this huge backlog of content. They're doing this new thing with smartphone games. Like it'll be very intriguing to see how it all takes shape.
And as far as the games are concerned, I wouldn't be surprised to see more. This is the place where we will see F-Zero come back and more of the C tier franchises, the potentially more exposure, in addition to cross promoting the big league mascots of Mario and Zelda and Pokemon. I think that's one of the biggest concerns Nintendo seemed to allude to, or Iwata seemed to allude to, and what these games could accomplish. There are so many kids out there that would love Nintendo games, but primarily the only device they really interact with or interface with is a smartphone or a tablet. And without Nintendo presence on there, these kids will grow up not having any chance to play or experience a really awesome Nintendo title, specifically a really awesome Nintendo franchise.
Hmm.
But that said, I think the games at first, the first batch, the first year, especially since Iwata said they would be leaning heavily on DNA to suggest from a product development perspective, how should we monetize this? How should we chunk out the content? How should we develop this? I think those first games are going to be rough. They're probably going to stink. There are some people who love Pokemon Shuffle, and I see just as many people say, "What a horrible game!" when I read gaming sites. It's an awful example. I wouldn't be surprised if whatever games come out this year are either exactly Pokemon Shuffle or something else that's not going to be the next Farmville or Candy Crush Saga or whatever major phone or tablet sensation game that you can think of. But I still think there is a potential, maybe in the second year or the third year, once Nintendo gets used to the hurdles and the challenges of developing across so many devices, there is going to be one, if not multiple, games that are just incredible. I would love to see the art style games come back, even as an example of even more obscure franchises that they could try to bring back in some way. To see some smartphone specific art style games would be awesome.
I'd like to see Pokemon Shuffle, and I'd like to see how this service works where I can basically play on my 3DS or smartphone, or maybe bring it over to Wii U where I have multiple places. If I pick up that console, I can play kind of my daily allotment. But like you, I could also see maybe their first experience is a complement game to a bigger franchise or a bigger game. I think the smartest thing when Nintendo talks about like marketing and getting people to transfer over to the console experiences, the game that popped into my mind right away, Noah, was Mario Maker. Why not make a mobile app that lets you create Mario levels for free, but you just can't play them
Mm-hmm.
unless you have Mario Maker? I mean, you have the touch device, so then you have kids and adults and everyone possibly building these levels, and maybe they can put them out there for other people to play, but for you to actually play these, you need to get the Mario Maker game. And I think they can do experiences like that that kind of lead you into the console side, which Iwata really talked about and stressed.
And I would love Nintendo to be a company that shakes up the expectations of what smartphone and mobile games are. We continually have, on a weekly basis, incredible indie developers who we've never heard of, who don't even have experience at previous game developers, who come up with incredible games that are worth everybody playing and everybody spending some time with. But I would love Nintendo to go out there and say, yeah, maybe we'll have some corny puzzle title or we'll have some endless runner, both of which I definitely expect from them. But I would love to see them come up with something else that's in the same vein of a mini genre, such as the puzzle games that we have, or endless runners, or tower defense. But it's something that's Nintendo specific, much in what we're looking forward to in Splatoon, where you have this team-based first-person shooter game that's not about kills, but it's about painting everything. It's all stuff that you're familiar with, but it's combined into something new that's just weird enough and novel enough that's like you can't say, "Oh yeah, I've totally played that game before." No, this is something that's specifically Nintendo, and I'm looking forward to seeing that happen on my smartphone within the next year.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't brought up. Aren't you a huge Elite Beat Agents fan?
I am, yeah, I love most Nintendo rhythm games, but especially Elite Beat Agents and
Like,
Osu Tatake's Undan.
I mean, smartphones make perfect sense for these having an expanded audience and not being relegated to a Nintendo handheld. I mean, Iwata said they're not going to port games, but I feel like there's some that just they make so much sense. I mean, bringing back Brain Age, for example.
Yeah.
I guess it could be a new game, but Mario Paint. I mean, people love.
Nintendogs, Rhythm Heaven, Wario,
Yeah,
Road.
I'm even. I'm curious. Like, there's gonna be some type of Animal Crossing game, I would think, or some way that you can like integrate Animal Crossing into whatever the next version of that game is. I mean, there's so many possibilities, along with, like you said, the match three puzzlers with Mario and Luigi's faces stamped on. But we know that Nintendo's also, you could argue, like the king of mini games, whether it was in the old new Super Mario Brothers DS game. I had a lot of fun playing those multiplayer
Mm-hmm.
games with friends in a local multiplayer environment, or just the Mario Party series, whether you love it or hate it. I mean, you can just kind of take some of those concepts from there. Nintendo Land's another great idea. And yeah, I'm curious how many of these, like you said, B and C tier franchises we'll get to see resurrected, and how Nintendo balances that, because people who have been clamoring for an F-Zero, if they hear, oh, it's coming back as a smartphone game, that can tick a lot of people off, but it could also be really cool. We're finally getting another F-Zero game, and maybe it'll kind of exceed expectations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like we're both pretty positive on this news. We're not.
Yeah.
We're
I
excited.
do have one more conspiracy theory related
Ooh.
to Nintendo looking into getting glass made that can make displays that are curved or have unusual shapes.
Hmm.
So my totally out there conspiracy theory, and I know this will never be the case, but thinking about how Nintendo loves to develop systems that are a little less powerful than what's coming out there, I could see or imagine Nintendo basically creating its own virtual reality headset where they have glass that's cut into the shapes of goggles that will go over your eyes, or it's actually a full on visor that fits over, and they have their own little, more of a lower level, not as super fancy or as expensive as the other virtual reality systems that are coming out, but it's distinctly Nintendo. Maybe there's some kind of twist to it that makes it a fully new game experience, as we've already been told NX is going to be. Not completely unique, but something, some kind of twist to it. And I would love to see some virtual reality Nintendo games. So that's me just kind of making a pipe dream, I suppose. But I still, it's hard to imagine why would they want a display that's a funky shape that could potentially harm the design of a game if it's not a conventional square shape and you have to design the interface around a weird curve or something. And I thought, well, if they were actually, it was glasses, that would actually be a great reason to justify a weird shape of a display.
And there's also, let's not forget the non-wearable coming out at some point where that device could be part of that. That's separate from the NX. I mean, that's the other kind of curveball that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
All of this monumental news, we still don't know exactly what the non-wearable sleep assistance device will be and how it will work and how that's kind of changed with all of this.
Yeah.
But if anything, there's no doubt we're kind of entering a new Nintendo era after Iwata kind of denied smartphone games for the past half decade. It is happening, and this isn't just Nintendo kind of dabbling its toe in the water anymore. They have jumped full in with the first game possibly expected later this year. So let us know what you think about Nintendo making mobile games, or what conspiracy theories do you have about the Nintendo NX. You can write us by emailing show@nfmagazine.com, or you can leave a comment right here on this YouTube page right below this video. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we have a ton of feedback to get through from last week. And I'm going to let Noah take it away.
Thanks, Evan. First up, we are going to get into our emails, and our first email is from Kisaki Project, who wrote, I just wanted to follow up with Evan about Majora's Mask 3D. It's not so much that it's meh, as its parts are amazing, but other parts, like time management, aren't great. It's a mixed bag. I do think you should follow through and finish it. It does have its moments, particularly the last area / dungeon. Also, the NPD sales are great news. About time we had some. Fastest selling Zelda title on a handheld is really encouraging. Zelda has been waning in popularity, so I hope new life is being breathed into the series.
Here, here. I was shocked to see Majora's Mask 3D do so well, but I'm excited for it, even though it hasn't necessarily been like my favorite game in the series so far.
Yeah, and I look forward to providing some older, wiser, whatever impressions of Majora's Mask that don't come from my more youthful memories in the 90s, and we'll see if I feel similarly as well.
I was waiting for you to say I will be providing the definitive NF show critique on the game. We'll have to deal with Evan's riffraff.
Our next email is from Glenn S. I know I'm a week late in mentioning this, but something about the Toon Link
Link cartoon.
thing Noah mentioned in episode 57 kept bothering me. I decided to look up the character's name in various regions, and lo and behold, Link Cartoon is Toon Link's French name. My guess is Nintendo wanted to use the same packaging for the amiibo in Quebec as the rest of North America. This is incredible research, Glenn S. Thank you for going the extra mile that we did
Yeah.
not in finding this out, and it makes total sense. I was at Best Buy just last week when I was getting my new gaming goodness, and I went and I hunched over and I was looking at their amiibo display and like, I'm not seeing a single instance of another name. And what's weird, I think that your hypothesis or your research, I think that that's probably completely correct, but it makes me wonder, does every other character use the same name otherwise that doesn't have a subtitle name? I don't know. Something worth checking into.
I just love that Glenn, like, was like there has to be a rational explanation, while instead we just like pointed at the box and we're like dumb, 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 makes no sense. Like cavemen. Just
Yeah. Glenn S. continues now. If I may be so bold, I would like to suggest an amendment to the rules of Noah's game. I think it would only be fitting that every time Noah says Toon Link, Evan replies by saying Link Cartoon with his best or worst French accent. All right.
my favorite
So
French cartoon.
no, let's
Hmm.
try it. You ready?
I don't have a French
Toon Link.
accent. Je ne sais pas. That's like my best, my
That's
best
lame.
French. Do you have a good French accent? Maybe we should switch roles here.
Let me think about it. I did almost double major in French, but that was so long ago. And that was all about trying to actually sound like I was speaking French accurately versus doing some gross stereotype accent.
I
There is
studied.
the
I did
stereotype
French in high
accent, which is
school.
like, oh, and like Link Cartoon.
Ah, oui, oui. Ah, I guess I can try. I can do a terrible French accent. We just proved it. All right,
All right.
go
Do you want
ahead.
me to do it?
Wait,
All
you
right.
say
Toon Link.
oh, Link cartoon. I kind of sound like a Waluigi, a
You
bad Waluigi.
you do.
That's. I didn't even know that was possible, but Glenn brought that out. That's what you all bring to this show. You make me see a side of myself. Do you want to try your French accent now?
No, I already kind of touched on that. Well, maybe I'll research that over the week.
Toon
Oh my,
Link.
Link Cartoon.
That's pretty good. Although that kind of like sounds like Antonio Banderas.
Yeah,
As
it did
well.
have a bit of a Spanish inflection or Italian. Who knows? We're just Americans with bad American inflections at the end of the day.
Yeah, and a bad Walu. I somehow managed to do
Waluigi.
two bad impersonations at the same time.
Our next email is from Lucas W., who wrote, "Any more news on Devil's Third? And what is your favorite beverage while gaming? Plus, I just got my subscription to the magazine this week. Excited!"
That's awesome. Lucas is one of my really good friends, so it's awesome that he wrote in. I think the last that we heard about Devil's Third is I think Itagaki has done some Facebook post where he's basically just said that it's coming along. We're going to be surprised by how much the visuals improved over the E3 build. That was kind of one of the criticisms thrown at that title back then. And he's really talked up the online experience for that game. So I'm really excited about that. Devil's Third could be just a. I am so intrigued by that. There's just so much curiosity about that game. So hopefully we'll learn more about E3. That'd be a surprise 2015 game for the Wii U. My favorite beverage while gaming is probably Diet Pepsi, caffeine free as well. I'm the
Oh
worst.
my goodness. You're like, you should just go to the old folks' home and be done with it.
I'm a Nintendo fan. We games for grandparents and grandchildren.
Nicely said. I'm really looking forward to Devil's Third as well. There have been several times during shows that we've recorded just in this specific year where I've wanted to mention and Devil's Third. Just going to come out with some jazz hands or something about it because I'm this is a game that I know it's not for everybody, but it seems like it has the potential to be a must own for me, and it's not the type of game that I would expect to see on Wii U. So all the
Hmm.
more reason for me to be looking forward to it and excited to see how it works, how it turns out. I may be hoping against hope that it has the same reception as Bayonetta 2 did, which who would have thought that game was going to come out and get all those nines and tens across the board? It probably won't do that, but if it were to and surprise us much as Bayonetta 2 did, even on its own terms, I think that could be nothing but good. There are some people who would say, this game's got no hope. It's been moved around too much. It's on life support. But there are those same people who could have said the same thing about Bayonetta 2. So that's the comparison I continue to choose. I continue to draw, and they may be nowhere near each other in terms of quality or gameplay at the end of the day. But that's what I naively want to hope. My favorite drink during gaming is, frankly, it's usually water, But if I'm going to spice things up, it's Mountain Dew. That's my favorite soda.
Diet Mountain Dew or full on Code Red?
When I was in my early 20s, Code Red was my favorite Mountain Dew, but I've gone back to loving the original Mountain Dew the most.
Back in my day, could put away the Code Red these days.
It's true.
Back to
And I
Old
also really
Faithful.
like the cane sugar Mountain Dew a lot as well. That's really good.
The cane sugar.
Yeah, no
Gonna,
fructose corn syrup.
gonna rot your teeth out.
I'll have you know that when I went to the dentist, I got lots of compliments for my teeth. So far, so good. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't done it yet, but
Mm-hmm.
watch out. I may show up next week with a tooth missing. Who knows? Our comments section now for feedback. Old school 1990s wrote, I was pretty shocked by the news that Nintendo will be jumping in the mobile game space. I'm excited to see what they can come up with, but remain skeptical. What will happen to our beloved consoles and handhelds if the mobile games outsell their traditional counterparts? The hardware part of the business would be somewhat unnecessary and at worst be deemed too costly to continue. With that said, I think there are a lot of great opportunities for new Nintendo licensed games. Imagine a Zelda themed tower defense game where you defend Hyrule Castle from Ganon's horde of minions, or you defend Lorule from the Hylian invasion force. There are limitless possibilities. I hope Nintendo can bring its level of quality to the mobile gaming arena while maintaining a solid presence in quote unquote traditional gaming.
Yeah, and I love that old school 1990s has jumped ahead of the curve here and gave us his feedback right away. And I think he has some legitimate concerns. Could this mobile strategy be like the third pillar of Nintendo with the DS, where it was like, oh, we're going to support all of these consoles, including the Game Boy Advance, and it was like, oh, DS is taken off, goodbye Game Boy Advance. And I mean, that'd be history repeating itself. So you hope that you don't all of a sudden see 3DS resources being taken away or just dropped even earlier than we expected because mobile is so big for Nintendo.
Wasn't it you who said to me last week that the NX could actually be a smartphone of its own?
That was one of my conspiracy theories, but I feel like that's going a little too far because Iwata did make stressed that it was a dedicated games platform first and foremost. So I'm doubtful since now they're making smartphone games that they would go that route. But I don't know. I just like tossing that wild theory, tossing that bomb out there, then walking away whistling while people freak out.
In old school 1990s, I also agree with Evan that it is definitely the potential for a slippery slope where Nintendo 20 years from now is strictly a mobile games developer. Who knows? It could definitely go that way. I hope that it doesn't, but time will tell, and it really depends on the quality of the games that Nintendo puts out there. I'm going to maintain first year going to be kind of yuck. After that, they're going to be awesome, but if they're better even sooner than then, that's great. Benjamin A. wrote, I am still chugging away at Pokemon Shuffle, though I am stuck on Mega Gengar. I'm following Evan's advice and going for S ranks in the meanwhile. Wow. He is going to be, Benjamin is going to be the ultimate Pokemon Shuffle player in the world.
Yeah, he's awesome because he took my advice, of course. I'm the mentor, so I take some of that credit.
Benjamin continues, this is also helping me level my characters too. Lastly, I've been trying to capture some Pokemon in the expert area. I got Zapdos and Articuno recently. This episode, you were discussing ideas for a new Zelda. I heard the mention of making Zelda the playable character. I like that idea, but I think this would be hard for Legend of Zelda fans to swallow. They just need Link. So my suggestion would be a game where you follow the events of both Link and Zelda. They are separated by some catastrophic event, and you must play as both separately, gathering key items, doing some specific events, all to bring down the forces of evil and/or to reunite. This would work well if they are childhood friends again, as in Skyward Sword. Amazing game, by the way. I think the dungeon designs could be quite fun if they allowed them to be tackled by Link and Zelda using their own unique abilities and weapons. What do you think?
I think that that could definitely work, or you could even merge it with kind of the idea we had last week, and I think someone wrote in about kind of going across different timelines. What if in each timeline it's a different character, or it's just the once again the two different time frames, and one you're child Link and the other you're adult Zelda because something happened to Link and unable to be that person or whatever. I think you could do a lot of different ways, but I think it's a really cool idea.
I really think this is a neat idea as well. And just to kind of take that in another direction or to extend it, Benjamin, I get to thinking of a puzzle solving or a Zelda dungeon game where you and a friend actually go through the dungeons together and there's this trade off that goes on. And maybe it allows for, I can't remember what the term is, asynchronous multiplayer might be the right term, where I take a turn, I accomplish some stuff, and now the ball's in my friend's court, and then they, as Zelda or Link, have to go through and finish their little half, and that opens the door for me, and then I can continue through. That could actually be more onerous or tedious. That specific example that I'm mentioning, a Four Swords adventure type of game, but it's played turn by turn. But something like that could potentially be really neat, I think. So thanks for these great ideas. It's so fun to imagine what Nintendo could develop. And who knows, maybe we're informing them. They surely they're watching this show or listening to it. C. Dixon wrote in, thanks for such a great and genuine response, guys. I don't know if I'm just imagining it or if you both just won me over with your reactions to my post, but your conversations and chemistry just seem so much more free, captivating, and funny this week. I haven't cracked up over a show like I have with this one. Thanks again for being so cool in spite of my harshness. I look forward to the next episode. Yay! That's awesome. I think that's really great. In case you aren't, if you can't remember who C. Dixon is, C. Dixon said that I was the Debbie Downer, Sad Sally, whatever you want to call
I
of
think
the
he called you a
episode.
bummer. What
A
I
bummer.
call you off the air. Hey, bummer. Get your microphone on. Get
Yeah.
ready. Got a show to do. Stop bumming me out.
Yeah. This is the only time that Evan gets happy Noah.
That's just, I wish that was your Nintendo Network ID, to be honest. Just bummer.
Everybody can remember it. Everybody can add it. No, I'm not like that all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I'm so glad that you appreciated us having fun and responding to your critiques about our conversations about Monster Hunter 4. So yay, that's awesome, and we hope you liked this episode and wants to go on. And please keep writing in. We love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Definitely. We always appreciate feedback, and as long as you're not cursing us out, we're definitely open to responding to anyone out there, especially any critical feedback. We love hearing it and hopefully can make this the show that you guys want it to be. Although I will never ever be okay with no voice chat. I'm just throwing that out there right now. I'm laying down the gauntlet.
Our final comment comes from the Seventh Experiment, who wrote in, as promised, here are some impressions for Code Name Steam. Evan,
Sweet.
last week you said the people who play Code Name Steam most likely either love it or despise it. I don't know about you, but I love it. I've heard tons of people comment on the enemy turns and how long they take, but honestly, they're not that bad to me. I try and take advantage of them and observe what the enemy is doing because more often than not, I'm able to use at least one of my units to see what's going on. It helps me to make a decision during my next turn. I love the style of the game, visuals and presentation, and especially love the amount of challenge there is in every level. I'm enjoying the strategy part of the gameplay and think Intelligent Systems has definitely delivered in that area. The only thing I think can be improved, other than the lack of a fast forward button, is the story. In my opinion, it's a little weak, so hopefully, if they decide to make a sequel, they can improve that. Anyway, I also am impressed with the variety in the game. There are some very interesting characters and weapons, which I think adds a great amount of creativity. Overall, I adore Codename Steam, and I'm currently in Chapter 9 or 10. As with all games that I love, I really hope I still have a long way to go. By the way, Evan, did I hear you say you played through Codename Steam too? If so, I'd love to hear some of your impressions.
I have only played the demo. I put in over 2 hours into that, so I have not picked up Codename Steam, but I enjoyed it. I did find the kind of length of time it took to wait for enemy turns to be somewhat irritating, but it wasn't a total turnoff for me. But I plan on picking up Codename Steam. I've still got the demo there because I know you can like transfer over some content or get content in the final retail release. My problem is I have Majora's Mask 3D, I have Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate that just has a ton of content, and then I have Pokemon Shuffle kind of nicking away at my time. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3D comes out next month if I double dip with that. So there's just so many great games
Mhm.
on the 3DS right now. It's crazy.
And Seventh Experiment, I'm definitely going to try the demo finally. I was looking forward to trying it out on my previous 3DS system just to see
Now you got the
how
C stick.
playable it was without the C stick, but
That's
now
how I did it.
stick. Yeah,
Yeah,
is that how you played it?
I played it with the 3DS XL. I really am curious how it would because it felt like it should. It felt like it was made with a new 3DS in mind, and I've said that previously. So I'll be curious to kind of hear your take on it.
Yeah, so I can definitely handle the preview or the demo. Going to do that, and I aim to be back with impressions on that for anybody who's interested next week. Thank you very much to everybody who wrote in the fantastic comments and emails. Evan and I both are really excited to hear any additional reactions or conspiracy theories that you have in relation to the news that we talked about in this episode. If you want to send them in via email, send them to show@nfmagazine.com, or you can leave us a comment here over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/nfmagazine.
Thank you, Noah, for taking us through that fantastic feedback, and thank all of you out there for joining us this week on episode 59. Don't forget, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We appreciate that. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. You can also leave us a review on iTunes. We'd love to see what you have to say on there. And don't forget on YouTube, there is an NF Show playlist where you can watch all 59 episodes in a row. So, if you have some time this weekend to just sit back and relax
Yeah.
and listen to our soothing voices, just take you away. You can enjoy that. Or maybe it's while you're waiting for those stupidly long enemy turns in Codename Steam. We can fill your ear holes with some great Nintendo coverage. So we hope to do that. If you want to listen to us more or hear our ramblings throughout the week, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at Evan Campbell. Noah's at This Is Noah. And most importantly, NF Magazine is at Nintendo Force. We have a new Nintendo to cover in the future, and you better believe we'll be back next week. I will at least. Noah's taking the week off. He's like, I've had enough of this. So he'll be coming back. You'll be back in 2 weeks, though, right?
Yeah, I will be back the week after next. I'm sad I'm not going to see your face,
Mm-hmm.
Evan, and get to talk to everybody, but I'll be back.
Yeah,
Rest
and we'll
assured.
be we'll be excited to hear some more impressions on the new Nintendo 3DS XL, Majora's Mask 3D, and Codename Steam. So you've got your homework cut out for you, buddy.
I do. I'm gonna double down on this new system that I got because my previous 3DS, it was only I think a year and a half old, and here I am already replacing it. I'm repeating the shameful mistakes that I did with my DS, where I have like three or four of those, and I don't know, I have three or four Game Boy Advances, and here I am, three 3DSs already, but it's time. Got to start chugging through those games. So buckle
We're buckled. We're buckled.
in.
Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. And once again, thank you so much for joining us here on the NF Show for episode 59. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.